Okay, picture this. You wake up tomorrow morning. Let's say it's exactly 6:47 a.m. The alarm goes off, you groggily silence it, and you swing your legs over the side of the bed. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to dive into the absolute most crucial minutes of your day. I am so thrilled to have you here because we're about to look at what is physically happening inside your body in those very first few moments after you wake up. Before you've even made a conscious decision to get up, your biology is already running this incredible sequence that's existed for hundreds of thousands of years. I mean, your heart rate is climbing, your body temperature is shifting, and your stomach, that muscular acid-filled pouch sitting right there in the upper left of your abdomen, well, it's already awake, and it's waiting. So the defining question of your entire morning is simply this: what are you going to give it first?
Now, consider just how extreme the environment inside your fasting stomach really is. While you were sleeping, your stomach emptied out completely. So by the time you wake up, the gastric acid sitting in there is at its absolute peak concentration, hitting a pH of roughly 1.5 to 3.5. To put that into perspective for a second, lemon juice sits around a pH of 2, and literal battery acid is 0. That means the fluid chilling in your stomach right now is strong enough to denature protein on contact. It can even dissolve zinc. No way, right? But it's actually supposed to be there. It kills off pathogens and activates your digestive enzymes. But after an 8-hour fast, all that intense acid is just sitting there in a very small, highly concentrated volume.
It's not just your stomach that's super concentrated, it's your blood too. Overnight, you passively lose anywhere from 300 to 500 milliliters of water. Think about it, every single time you exhale, moisture leaves your lungs, and water is just continuously diffusing right through your skin while you sleep. Because of this passive dehydration, your blood plasma volume literally shrinks, which causes your hematocrit, that's the percentage of your blood made up of red blood cells, to rise by 1 to 3 percentage points overnight. So your blood is physically thicker. It faces way more resistance to the flow. Essentially, before your feet even hit the bedroom floor, your completely dehydrated body is practically begging for water.
Which brings us to our first major decision. Section 1. The first choice: warm versus cold water. Okay, so we know we absolutely need water first thing, but this brings us to a really fascinating biological crossroad. Should that water be warm or should it be cold? And hey, this isn't just about what you prefer. It's an actual physical instruction you're about to send directly to your nervous system. Now, both pathways are incredibly valid, right? They're these miraculous responses driven by the highly sophisticated machinery of your body. Warm water acts kind of like a gentle primer. It enhances gentle gastric motility, stimulates the production of fresh mucus, and relaxes the smooth muscle of your gut. Cold water, on the flip side, acts as a rapid trigger. It amplifies a mass colonic reflex, prompts incredibly fast plasma hemodilution to thin out your blood, and directly stimulates the vagus nerve to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. So neither is wrong. They just do completely different things. Let's dive into the first option, Path A, the warm-up. If you choose warm water, you're essentially treating your digestive system like a high-performance engine. I mean, you wouldn't cold start a massive engine and immediately push it to its maximum load, right? You let the fluids circulate first. Warm water beautifully rehydrates the enzymes that actually need a liquid medium to function, and it gently dilutes that intense, concentrated surface layer of fasting gastric acid we talked about earlier. And this is absolutely crucial because you aren't just hydrating yourself. Get this, by cell count, you are actually more microbial than human. Mind-blowing, right? You're carrying roughly 30 trillion human cells, but you're hosting 38 trillion microbial cells. That is a vast, living ecosystem right inside your gut. And just like you, it wakes up completely dehydrated after an 8-hour fast. These little guys synthesize your vitamins, regulate your immune system, and produce 90 to 95% of your body's serotonin. And guess what? They desperately need water to do all of that.
Now, one of those key microbial residents is this fascinating bacteria called Akkermansia mucinifera. It lives right inside the mucus layer of your gut. It actually feeds on your mucus components, which, yeah, sounds kind of gross, but it's brilliant. Its feeding activity is the exact signal your gut needs to continuously simulate the production of fresh, new mucus. It's basically your internal maintenance crew. Drinking warm water directly supports this crew, helping to rebuild that vital protective mucus barrier right when your stomach acid is at its most concentrated and, honestly, dangerous level.
But what if you go the other route? Let's look at Path B, the cold start.
So when you drink cold water, the temperature actually acts as a direct physical instruction to these tiny molecular thermometers embedded in your stomach lining. Check this out. You have a cold-sensing receptor called TRPM8. When cold water hits it below 26 degrees Celsius, it opens up and sends a massive parasympathetic rest and digest signal straight to your brain. And because the cold is coming from inside your core, your body interprets it as safe internal information, not some external threat. Conversely, you've got a warm sensing receptor called TRPV1, which activates above 43 degrees Celsius.
Hot liquids, like say a hot cup of coffee, hit this receptor and promote a sympathetic, alert, and mobilized tone. So the temperature of your very first drink literally determines which autonomic tone is going to control your digestion and your heart rate for the next several hours. Pretty wild.
And the anatomy happening here is just stunning. As cold water descends through your chest, it passes by your vagus nerve trunk, separated by only 3 to 5 millimeters of tissue. I mean, that is microscopic. That's literally less than the thickness of 2 stacked coins. So that cold water transiently cools the nerve itself, which alters its firing threshold. Combined with the physical stretch of your stomach filling with water, this sends a massive, combined, amplified signal up to your brainstem, triggering a system-wide gastrocolic reflex. It's essentially a physiological flush that wakes up your entire lower digestive tract.
Which brings us to our next section, the saboteur.
Coffee and cortisol.
Okay, so we've got these two beautifully elegant biological pathways to kickstart our day. But instead of honoring them, we so often introduce a cultural saboteur. You know the drill. The standard modern default is to just roll out of bed, totally ignore hydration, and reach straight for a hot coffee. And maybe some sugar, literally right after the alarm goes off. Well, when you do that, you trigger what's called the cortisol stacking effect. See, within 45 minutes of waking, your body naturally spikes cortisol by 38 to 75% just to get you alert. This is totally normal and healthy. But high cortisol temporarily suppresses your stomach's protective mucus layer. And caffeine, that's a pharmacological trigger that directly stimulates even more cortisol release. So if you drink coffee immediately upon waking, you're stacking these cortisol spikes. You are stripping your gut of its protective defenses and dropping highly acidic, hot coffee right into a stomach that is already sitting at its daily maximum acid concentration. Ouch.
And honestly, it usually doesn't stop there. Just think about a typical breakfast. A standard glass of commercial orange juice has been completely stripped of its biological fiber matrix. A whole orange has a nice, gentle glycemic index of 40, but that fiberless commercial orange juice, it jumps way up to 58. On an empty, highly acidic stomach, that liquid sugar hits your bloodstream almost instantly. Your pancreas surges with insulin, your blood sugar spikes, and then, inevitably, it plummets. This causes that classic mid-morning reactive hypoglycemia crash that most of us just try to fix with, yep, you guessed it, more coffee.
So, let's fix this. Moving on to the optimal morning blueprint.
How do we actually put all this into practice? We can synthesize all these insights into a highly effective sequence that actually honors your circadian digestive timeline. Chronologically, it looks a little something like this. Right at minute 0 to 3, you wake up and drink water. Warm or cold, totally your choice, but just hydrate. Then you simply wait 30 to 45 minutes to let your natural cortisol awakening response peak entirely on its own. Sometime between minute 60 and 120, you have your first meal. This is perfectly timed for when your pancreas has its highest insulin sensitivity. And finally, around 90 to 120 minutes after waking, you have your very first coffee. Delaying the coffee post-cortisol peak totally prevents that dangerous cortisol stacking we talked about, and it gives your stomach's mucosal barrier the time it needs to naturally thicken up. Now, when you do hit that 60 to 100 minute mark to eat, here is your biological breakfast target. You absolutely want soluble prebiotic fiber, think whole oats or chia seeds, to feed those 38 trillion microbes who literally haven't eaten in 8 hours. Next, you want adequate protein, roughly 25 to 40 grams. Think 2 to 3 eggs here. This is because your muscles are incredibly primed for maximum muscle protein synthesis in the morning. And finally, you want a fermented element, like some plain Greek yogurt. Clinical trials actually show this can dramatically remodel your microbiome diversity and significantly lower inflammation. So tying it all together, your final takeaway is this super simple, actionable, optimized morning sequence. Step 1, drink your 300 to 500 milliliters of water, warm or cold. Step 2, wait 30 to 45 minutes for that natural cortisol peak to do its thing. Step 3, eat a meal built on fiber, protein, and probiotics to beautifully support your circadian rhythms. And step 4, finally enjoy your coffee with or after your food so the meal can act as a buffer against the acid and the caffeine. By doing this, you are now elegantly supporting your highly sophisticated digestive machinery instead of fighting it.
You know, we have built an entire massive pharmaceutical industry around treating the downstream effects of ignoring these super basic biological rules. We're prescribing millions of antacids and gut medications to folks who are just accidentally pouring acidic coffee into unprotected, fasting stomachs every single day. But the power is completely in your hands to change this routine. So I'm going to leave you with this one question to think about. Tomorrow morning at exactly 6:47 a.m., when you sit on the edge of the bed, will you work with the 38 trillion residents of your biology or against them? Drink water first, and everything else follows.